Hare Ganga Mahadev Sri Shankara Parvati Pati Mahadev Sri Shankara.
Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest evolvement. And your highest evolvement is needed right now because we are in the midst of the Great Awakening that is 2020. And awakenings can be painful, they can be difficult, they can be confronting, because these are the shadows that needed to be revealed for us to come to light. So we're all feeling it right now, a lot of anger, sadness, guilt, shame, these denser emotions are coming to surface, and it's not new. They didn't arise in 2020. They've always been there, but we're just becoming really aware of them right now for the first time, really looking at them, finding their roots, finding how long they've been there, and doing the work right now to heal them, not just for ourselves, but for the entire collective. So we are moving through our own shit personally, and the collective is moving through its own from the decisions the collective has made for centuries now that finally, the repercussions are coming to surface, and we're actually having to see that we are all connected, and one person's suffering is all of our sufferings, and we don't truly become free when all of us become free. So we're having to, put on our big girl and big boy panties and do the work, do the heavy work that we've been overlooking, that we've been, too busy for, and actually bring it to surface right now and realize that we all do have a role. And each and every one of us is gonna play an instrumental part of bringing this new shift. Some of us are the frontliners, some of us are more behind the scenes, some of us are working with the trauma, some with the children, some with the food, some with the healthcare, and we all have different roles to play here. So this is not the time to criticize someone else's role and say, well, why isn't your role like my role? Or why isn't it like that person's role? It's not a competition. It is you really understanding yourself, understanding what your truth, your Dharma is. Your Dharma is your soul's purpose. And the more that you can understand yourself, the more easily you will be able to navigate all of the bumps that come with this global awakening. As Shaman Durek shares with us on this episode, we're just at the beginning, y'all. And that doesn't mean it's a scary thing. That doesn't mean that, the world is going to collapse. But what it does mean is that we all have an essential role to play here. So we need to go into that and pace ourselves so we can be in it for the long run. And when you are in your Dharma, you do have endless amounts of energy because you're fueled by source. You're not doing something that's out of alignment because you think it's what you're supposed to do, but you're actually giving in the way that source designed you to give. So it actually feels blissful. It feels incredible. Like for me, doing these podcasts and writing my books and creating my content and leading my Rose Gold Goddesses Circle, I love doing it. It feels blissful, and I am being of service in that way. So for you, maybe that is making music that heals people when they hear it, or maybe it is breath work, or maybe it is helping people garden, or maybe it is helping people be in touch with their intuition or their astrology or something else. Find that thing that really lights you up, and how can we use it to be of service to humanity right now? This is what the world is really asking us for. So this is my fourth time, I think, having Shaman Durek on the High Self podcast. He is a dear friend of mine. We are the co-hosts of the Awaken Your Powers Masterclass, which is a almost 3-hour-long masterclass where him and I just riff on all things leadership, how to be a leader in the new paradigm, which is available for you, included in your Rose Gold Goddesses membership. So be sure to join us in Rose Gold Goddesses to participate in that and so much other goodness. But I adore Shaman Durek because he is so good at helping bring shamanism to the people. That is really what he is all about. So, most of us, when we think of a shaman, we think of someone who maybe doesn't speak that much to us and is more like holding the energetic space. And that could be a type of shamanism, but the type that he really practices and embodies from his African lineage is to give the power back to the people. So he really teaches us how we are powerhouses, how we can access our own spirit guides and our own intuition and be our own vessels of information and channel information through our bodies and listen to our bodies to know how to connect with what Source is asking us to do. He is also a Black man living in the United States. So we speak about what is happening today, the racial issues, the tension, the covert racism, and then all of the nuances that are coming from this conversation of, some anger that is arising, some guilt that is arising, all of the different perspectives on how we should be, how we should respond in terms of racism. And the second part of the conversation, we go more into looking at this from a shamanic perspective. So zooming out and actually looking at this as the blackout, which he writes about in his book, Spirit Hacking, of this period in history that the shamans actually knew was going to happen, that there would be a 12-year cycle, and he goes more into depth about it in the second part of the episode, so be sure to listen to that. But it was super fascinating to see how divine this all is, how it's not a coincidence, but it really all is here for a reason. And from every different lineage, from shamanism to astrology to Vedas, we say it's the Kali Yuga, but everyone knew right now shit was going down, because we had to clear the way for the new way forward. So it's not a surprise really to any of us that this is happening. We're like, okay, it's here. We've been waiting for this. So it actually changes your perspective because, as much as we joke around like, 2020, take me back to 2019, like it's actually a beautiful thing that we're moving through this. And if we can see it like that, then we're no longer afraid of everything happening to us. We're no longer trying to skip away or run away from it or go somewhere else that we won't be affected by it. He talks more about that and how a lot of people are trying to run away from it and how that's not really going to work, and how we can really show up at this time as our highest selves. He gives some of his predictions of what is to come and just speaks about it from his really unique perspective. So I'm super excited for you to listen to this episode, to hear his wisdom, and to be inspired by his truth. So without further ado, let's welcome Shaman Durek to the Highest Self podcast. And before we get started, I have an announcement for you. Are you ready to channel your full embodied goddess, to work that spiritual activism, to stand up for the causes you truly believe in and embody your highest self? Well, if this is calling your name, I invite you to join us in my membership community, Rose Gold Goddesses, the sacred sisterhood collective all about embodying the goddess within. This month, we are working with Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, who is all about transformation and using that sacred anger towards change. We are drumming, we are dancing, we have my full 4-hour healing and embodiment workshop available for you, teaching you how to use your body as an instrument for healing, for transformation in a divine feminine way. We also have so many other workshops and masterclasses available for you, from my Awaken Your Powers masterclass with Shaman Durek to my Sex, Money, Magic masterclass with Alexandra Roxo, my Discover Your Dharma 10-day audio course, and dozens of other workshops, including many from guests on the Highest Self podcast and member-led workshops. So if this is calling your name and you'd like to join a community of 2,000 plus spiritual soul sisters on our very own app, where we're talking about all things spiritual, we're sharing what we're moving through at this moment and really supporting each other, then I invite you to join us at Rose Gold Goddesses. It is rosegoldgoddesses.com. The link is in the show notes, and I'm so excited to meet you inside. Welcome, Shaman Durek, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so great to have you back.
Thank you for having me back. I'm honored to be in your presence, and I'm honored to be here for the Higher Self podcast. And to everyone who's listening, I love you and so grateful.
So the first question I'd love to ask you again is, what makes you your highest self?
What makes me my highest self is the way that I show up and hold space for other people to shine and to be radiant in who they are, and also to be of service to people when they need me. And the best way I do that is by how I hold space for myself. And then by holding space for myself, it allows me to be able to keep myself full, so that way I can support others by holding space for them. And I feel like that's what makes me my higher self.
I love that. And I think right now, we're struggling with that balance, right? Of how do I take care of myself? How do I let my inner child play dance, fun, joy now? No fucking way. I have to be like fully in it. And we've gone from this like, and we spoke about this before, the like spiritual like selfishness of like my spiritual practice is only for me and not for anyone else, to this completely losing yourself, completely letting go of all of your practices. And I think we're struggling with like, what does that balance look like? So can you give us any wisdom for people who are like, their eyes have been opened for the first time on injustice in this world, and they're like, oh my God, how can I ever go back to having my own personal care practice at this point?
Well, I think that the narrative is really understanding where you are without making any really big moves until you have a strong clarity about where you are. And I think what happens is it's the constant social pressure that is creating this, you have to mentality upon people right now, that it literally takes you away from the self-care, because self-care is about being in your autonomy. It's about recognizing yourself as an individual creator, and what you are actually holding for yourself is what you can hold for others. And I think what's going on right now is that everyone's putting all these pressures of you have to. And I think whenever we get into the idea of you have to, we have to take a step back and recognize that it's not about you have to, it's about where are you best inserted in society at this time? Like, where are you best needed? Like, how they always say is that wisdom is not wisdom until it is inserted into a certain place, and therefore it becomes, something wise. And so what we have to acknowledge right now is that the whole idea of self-care is truly the pause before making a step. It's like, why are you stepping there? Why are you going there? What is your purpose for doing that? Are you doing it because everyone else is doing it? And if you don't do it, you're not going to be loved. So right there, you're not acknowledging the self-care, that you're still seeking a codependent form of love in order to be who you are, which means that this is an opportunity for you to actually go, why do I feel like I need to do what everyone else is doing? Why don't I decide to do something completely different? And that is more in alignment to me and what actually moves my heartstrings to be able to show up and be fully present, because it's so much better to be a present person who's fully activated than a person who's activated out of guilt or shame or being forced or feeling like you're not a good person because you're not following the herd.
And I think a lot of people, especially at the beginning of this whole racial tension issue, felt like if I don't say something immediately, people will think I'm racist. So because of that, everyone was like immediately going and just reposting and resharing the same thing to kind of like have this flag, like, I'm not a racist up. But then what that has been causing are a lot of just like fake, the fake performative activism. But then even deeper than that, a lot of people who are criticizing, well, why haven't you been posting enough? Why haven't you been donating enough? Why haven't you this? And all of this like cancel culture that has come with it. And that's what I'm seeing right now, especially amongst women, a lot of tearing each other down, a lot of like the witch hunt happening today. And I know as a women's empowerment leader yourself, this is a huge cause for you. So can you share more of how we can empower each other at this point rather than tear each other down?
Well, I think, what we have to first look at, Sahara, is the fact that the system wants you to tear each other down or shut each other up. So this whole thing is set up to get everyone into a frenzy, to create a chaos theory so that, as they say, that where there's chaos and everyone's disenfranchised and everything is in complete disarray, this is the greatest way for power to overthrow the people, right? Is when people are not within their resolve and they're not within the understanding of togetherness and wholeness. They're operating in this consensus of, well, I need to get angry, get upset, and then claim these angers and these different feelings that are arising, instead of realizing these feelings were already there, and that the situation that took place with George Floyd was just an aggravation and also a space given for people to finally say, I have been angry. And it's not just about George Floyd, it's about life. And it's about being stuck in my home on quarantine. And it's about the fact that I don't have love. And it's the fact that money's been scarce. And it's the fact that I don't know what to do. And I don't know I have uncertainty of where I'm going and what my so-called future looks like. And so when we understand that the system is using this as a ploy to pull you in magnetically into something, and then realizing that this whole cancel culture is basically the same reason why we go to war, the same reason why we're still being divided, the same reason why we're still having these social calamities and these, social political issues, is because cancel culture has always existed. It's just now being much more organized. Cancel culture happens all the time when someone has a problem with a friend and they don't want to talk to them anymore. They just, don't talk to that person. They cut them out of their life. That's a cancel, right? But the difference with cancel culture is now you have organized people coming together in categorized groups that are targeting a person and utilizing the idea of gossip and insult to instill some form of, a punishment upon them. And the key element is, as long as we continue to act in this way towards each other, we are only getting sicker and sicker and sicker as a society. We cannot continue to push the same ways that we did things back in the times of the 70s and the 60s, and the way that we marched and the way that we protest against things that were creating oppression and disillusionment within society, from the civil rights movement to you name it. Because the system has already watched that, they've seen it, they know what to expect. And so they're just now constructing a better way of making sure that whoever jumps into that is also going to create something that the system wants you to create, which is to create this aggravated tension, not just for the people who are jumping in and marching and who are standing up for Black power, but it's also to instill guilt and shame within the white people. When we talk about people don't want to feel that they're racist, well, the reality is, I'm speaking to you as a melanated man. You were born into racism. So it's not that you're racist, you were born into it. So you already have natural things that you're doing unconsciously that are considered to someone like me as racist, white, privileged gestures that I witness immediately, or anyone of melanated skin tone can see right off the bat. So a lot of my friends are like, I'm not racist. I'm like, it's not about that. It's the fact that you were born into a system that already had racism already attached to it. So you were born into it. It's like my girlfriend, Princess Marsha, said she didn't know racism at all. She thought she wasn't racist. She thought she didn't have white privilege. She didn't understand any of these things until I pointed it out for her. And she's like, oh my God, you're right. I am racist. But it's not because I want to be racist. It's because I was born into it. And so now it's about defragmenting yourself, pulling yourself, unpackaging that, and looking at it from a loving place, not from a shame and blame place, but from a place of, okay, I was born into a system that already initiated racism or white privilege in a way that keeps Blacks or people who are melanated out of the true understanding of human rights. Because see, Black people don't have human rights in America. I've never had human rights in America. I've had civil rights. We can be civilized. Yay, we're civilized. Yay. We're not gonna we're gonna be civilized to you. But human rights, none. And from the moment that I was a child, my dad sat me down and was like, if you get pulled over by a cop, don't say, thank you, officer. Look at his badge, find out who he is. Don't make sudden movements in the car. Don't give him a problem because he can shoot you because you don't have human rights. My dad told me, if you want to get a bank account, you have to walk in with a white friend in order to get the loan, because they're not going to just give you a loan on your own because they're going to see that you're Black and they don't realize who your influences are. So if you walk in with a white person, they're more likely to give you a loan. Or when I get on an elevator and a woman's holding her bag tightly because she thinks I'm going to rob her. Or when I walk down the street and I see white people walking towards me and they cross the street because they think, oh God, a Black man is coming my way. Who knows what he's going to be like? Or I'm considered the angry Black man, or I'm a liar. Or anytime I do anything in the health and wellness world, I'm always being scrutinized. I'm always being eliminated from events. I have to actually find out what's going on and get involved. No one's saying, hey, you know what? Let me actually support you and get your message out there, because you've been programmed subconsciously to not listen to melanated people. You were programmed not to listen to the Black woman and not to listen to the Black man unless he has something of value. And that value could be wealth, position in society, such as celebrity status, or that he's built some level of acknowledgement, and that because everyone else is acknowledging him, you feel comfortable to acknowledge him. But instead of really looking at the wisdom and the teachings and the sharings that are taking place for the remembrance of people to step truly in their power. So racism, yes, you're born into racism. To be educated about what that looks like, what that feels like, and how that shows up in today's world is the key element that all melanated people want. They don't want you to go around being like, I'm sorry, I'm this, I'm that. Because look, you didn't put the chains on my ancestors' necks. You didn't drag them across the water and lock them up in tiny little cages and beat them and put them to work in plantations and do those things. That wasn't you, okay? That was someone in the far, far past. That whole nonsense is ridiculous because that nonsense is actually creating a much more difficult social situation, because it's making people go into what I call guilt in vain. Because the guilt in vain is like, stop for a second and just breathe and realize that you weren't the one who put a chain around my ancestor's neck. The responsibility that you have today is to educate yourself on human rights. And human rights for Black people in America or in the world is so important, because it's not just in America, it's all over the world. And it's important that being a lighter skinned person, you've been afforded all of these privileges that has made life easier for you. Even if you were a person who was born white trash, you still had more privileges than I did because of the fact of the color of your skin. Whereas I get pulled over for a cop, or I see myself walking down the street and cops will grab me, throw me against the wall. Right here at Earth Cafe in Los Angeles, threw me against the wall with my girlfriend because we were melanated, threw us to the floor, put their foot on our back, was like, where is it? Where's the stolen goods? I'm like, I didn't steal anything. They're like, shut up, where is it? And then when they found that it wasn't us, they just jumped in the car and drove off. But God forbid that, I scraped my knee, I scraped my legs, I had shorts on that day, and it's like, it happens all the time. And that's the thing. That's the thing, is that human rights, civil rights is what Martin Luther King stood for. Dr. Martin Luther King stood for civil rights. And he brought that to the forefront. We can eat dinner together. We can go to the bathroom together. Oh my goodness, I can sit next to you in a baseball game. Wow. I can go to a party with you and like dance on the dance floor with you. However, the difference is when the cops come in, I'm shaking and I'm scared because I know this could be my last breath. I know that the relationships that I've been in the past that were tumultuous, I had people I was with in relationships who used their power to manipulate me because of the color of my skin. And because anytime they wanted to call the cops, just to call the cops, or a woman sees me walking down the street and she decides she wants to call the cops and say, there's a Black man in my neighborhood and he's looking in windows or he's doing weird things, when I was just looking in the car wondering, like, I saw the light on, so I was checking to see if there was a key in the car and someone left their car. And all of a sudden the cop pulls up and throws me on the hood of the car and it's like, are you trying to break into this car? This woman called from the house over there. That's the difference. That's not going to happen to someone of light skin. That happens to people of melanated tone. And that's what melanated people would like for you to get into, is the education and the sharing of that education. Not into the guilt, the shame, the blame, and I'm not good enough, and this person you should be posting. Because if you're going to post something educated that helps with human rights for people of color.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure for so many people, they're shocked. How could this happen today in 2020? Especially someone like you that you're like this incredible love bunny. We're like, how could it happen to you? But it's the truth. And it's like, having these conversations with so many of my melanated friends now, similar experiences. It's like, it's sad because what I'm seeing different approaches to this. And I'm sure you've heard this too, is, well, how can we repeat the victim story? So for example, I listened to this interview with Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is obviously a Black man. And he says, I don't believe that racism exists, because he gave us an example that he was getting in trouble. He was breaking into something with this gang and the gang left him and he was shot. He was about to die and the cop saved him. And he's like, that cop was white and he saved me. And my fellow gang members were Black and they didn't. Therefore, racism doesn't exist. And then people are using examples like this or the Candace Owens, et cetera, to say that, see, racism, look, a Black person said so themselves. They're playing the victim card. So can you speak into, because it gets me so agitated. I'm like, I want you to drop some knowledge on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the deal, right? The thing is that a lot of Black people, melanated people, don't want to keep calling out, we've been hurt, we've been this, we went through this, we went through that, because the pride that they have and what they've achieved, even though they've gone through that, is what they want to hold up and focus on. And so what happens is, what's missing from the equation of that is the compassion of humanity. And the compassion of humanity is, yes, that white cop saved you. And that's a wonderful thing. And we have to acknowledge that there are beautiful, light-skinned brothers and sisters like who do stand up for people of color, but that's not enough on the planet. There's a lot more people who are not standing up, who are not speaking up, because they don't even know what's going on, because they've been told that everything is the way it is, and they don't even know that these things exist until someone like me points it out to my girlfriend, of course, who's a part of the royal family, and shows her all the disrespect at the royal wedding that I got, all the people who kept looking down at me from the other royal houses, and the differences in energy when a prince from Sweden or a queen from another place comes to the royal palace in Norway, and we have this kind of like connection, and they're so nice to me. Then I show her the difference of those who have racism and what it looks like. And I show her that whenever you do anything in life, the door is more open to you, where you don't have to prove yourself as much as someone like me. I don't care what Candace owns or any of these people say, like, they can live their life and do as they choose and speak as they choose. I'm not getting caught up in the blue and the red. I'm in the purple. I'm a believer that the division is real. And the system, the matrix, wants us to stay divided, because when you're divided, you are weak. And when you're weak, then they can put all types of social policies on you and ideas of government and force things upon people without there being a unified front of, no, that's not okay. We forget that every celebrity, every politician, every person who's in a position of power got their power from the people. So again, we have to realize that we gave this power. We've said, here, there's the power. We're putting our attention on you. We're investing in you. We're investing in your companies. We're investing in this. We're investing in that. And what's happening right now is a resurgence. And why this resurgence is happening is because we've had all these eclipses in the past that were creating a magnetic energy on the planet that has been drawing out the sediment of darkness and filth and decay and rot and everything that's been hiding underneath the surface that human beings don't want to bring to the light, that they don't want to bring to resolution, that they don't want to bring into a place of compassion and harmony and grace and beauty and love and acceptance and acknowledgement, and move it on through so that we can move into a fifth dimensional frequency of consciousness of unconditional love, so that we can operate our technology from a higher place, so that we can bring education to a higher place, so that we can understand humanity, not humanity in separate compartmentalizations that we can accept because we're afraid of engaging in someone else that's completely different from who we are. And that doesn't just mean melanated people, that's women, that's people who are with the same sex, that's people who have anything that human beings deem to be different than what is socially accepted. But remember, social acceptance is, again, very different in different social groups. So what is really socially accepted depends upon what you choose to invest into as an individual. So if we understand that the narrative that these people are sharing, as Sahara is saying, there's no racism, is because there's so much pain and hurt growing up and having it thrown in your face all the time. You want to get to a place where you're just like, I'm out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to acknowledge it anymore. I want to create a new world for myself. I want to create a new vision for my people where we're not stuck in this idea of woe is me, this keeps happening. But if we keep maybe, and this is how I'm thinking about it from a shamanic point of view, perhaps in their mind, they're thinking, if we act like it's not there and we don't put our attention on it, then eventually it will go away, or eventually something new will be created from the way we choose to think. So what we're going to do is we're going to think in this way. And if we get more people to think in that way, then it shifts the narrative of what we see that's there that we don't want to look at, right? And that's interesting. But again, human rights are not just with the melanated people. It's also with all types of people. And when we understand that, yes, George Floyd had to set off a ticking time bomb that was ready to go off if it was George Floyd or if it was another person. But because it was such an insult to the human eyes and to the understanding of human nature, because you see, human beings by nature are already savage, okay? The savageness of human beings already exists. That's why we watch scary movies. That's why we love all those horror flicks and, Saw 1, this thing, that thing. Human beings by nature love to consume and destroy and insult and gossip and put each other down, put themselves down, and continue operating in this very degrading way. But we don't take responsibility for that shadow until we see it played out in front of us through someone else. And so if it had to be George Floyd getting, knee-necked and seeing what we call a live demonstration of lynching in a more modern way, that human beings were like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening right now. This person is screaming for their life and no one's helping them. And then they died. Well, guess what? There's people in Ethiopia right now who are screaming for their life because they have no food. There's women right now who are being raped. There's children right now who are being taken away and sold on the black market for sex and being used in rituals to support these ETs that have been enslaving our planet, with the hopes that these beings in the Illuminati will be able to get eternal life and be able to live longer and be given more power and position. There are people right now who are crying and screaming all over the world because their waters are filled with plastic bottles, and because pollution in the air is so thick that they cannot breathe, so it burns their eyes. They're being thrown off of roofs just because they choose to be with the same sex. I mean, people are screaming all over the place. So again, is it really the narrative of just George Floyd, or is it the narrative that we have a real sickness, everyone, and we have a human sickness, a mental illness that has been going for a very long time, and we keep finding more divisive ways or more selective ways to sweep it under the rug and act like it's not there. But because we are on this amazing planetary shift in consciousness because of the eclipses, and because we're in this time of called the Great Upheaval that I talk about in my book, Spirit Hacking, we are at a precipice of a sink or swim moment in our evolution. And so guess what that means? That means that you're going to have physical things show up for you karmically now, because you had all this time to deal with things dharmically on the Dharma level, but you didn't choose to go into the rug and look underneath this and see the sediment, all the poison and the sludge and everything that's been sitting there. So now the universe has to actually give you physical representations of the very thing that your shadow has been screaming out for a very long time, which is, where's the love? Where's the love? Where is the love? This is the anthem of the soul that wakes up every morning and screams, where's the love? Where's the love? There's no reason for human beings to be so freaking unhappy when you have so much given to you and it's just never enough. It's never enough. So these things are now showing up, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. This isn't even what is planned in the grand scheme of the awokeness awakening, the activation that's taking place on the planet to shake and wake everyone up. because to get shook, this is the first stage of getting shook, and this is a baby shook, okay? This is a baby shook, okay? Because what's coming for us to witness, because we have not chosen to interface with darkness and our own shadow with unconditional love and take full responsibility, which means the ability to show up with love, is going to be a much more love needed for what is coming.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I think what a lot of people struggle with is feeling like there are so many different issues out there. You know, there's this famine going on in Yemen right now. There are all of the, things that are happening with the gay community and taking away their rights. And they feel so overwhelmed by everything that's happening. And this is not new. This has always been the case. This is why the Buddha began his study. So where the conflict I'm seeing internally is, how much do we as spiritual people take action in the 3D, action as in like, whether it's a protest, donation, this, that, and how much of it is us just leading by example, being the vibration, and this fear of the spiritual bypass of it too, just finding that perfect balance for each person.
You see, this whole modern context of lexicon of spiritual bypass really rubs me not in the highest light, because the whole idea of spiritual bypassing is based on each person's individuality of evolution, and is very subjective to each person where they are within that scale of evolution. And so what we have to understand is that, we can't, it's the old saying that, like, Lord Siddhartha, said that, like, when the person said, oh, let's get the rope because we got the rapists, and let's go hang them, and Lord Siddhartha said, well, then get a rope for yourself as well. Because the thing is that we're operating in the context of telling people what they haven't done, what they should do, and how it should be done, with all the calamities that are taking place on the planet, and everyone is getting mad at each other in the process. And therefore that defeats the whole entire shift and the whole entire paradigm for making its complete insurgence into our new reality, which is what his spirit is bringing through. And so in order for us to kind of get out of that, the first key we have to do, and this is a beautiful image of Lord Siddhartha, where Lord Siddhartha is refusing to be involved in the chaos, and is operating in a place of observing and a place of witnessing. Right. And I think that the key element of observing and witnessing is truly got to be the cornerstone and the first degree of action that we operate from when it comes to watching all of these things unravel. Because that's all that's happening, is that these things are unraveling so that people can get their real emotions out, instead of putting on the happy face and acting like everything is so love and light and everything is so amazing because you just got like so many more followers on your Instagram, and your nails and manicure is on fleek, and you're invited to a cool wellness party, and you just downed an amazing new chia drink. The thing is that the understanding of evolution has changed the narrative to get people into the state of this whole need for control on our planet has led us into all of these things that we are experiencing. And the heightened range of that depends on each person's evolution of how they're reacting to it. So if you take the first order of spirit, which is non-reaction, and observe and witness, then you take the second order of action, which is to acknowledge resource. What resource do you have? What types of resources do you have? And how can that resource be used effectively? Now, when I say effectively, I want everyone to hear the word effectively. Because when you are using resource effectively, that means that you put your mind on the idea of true change. You've realized that to effectively create change, you have to understand one thing. And that is that just because everyone is doing it this way, to affect something has to come from authenticity and has to come from passion. Now, some of the greatest leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Helen Keller, I mean, the list goes on, JFK, all of these amazing people, including Marilyn Monroe, who stood up for, amazing jazz and blues singers to be able to sing at places, because they weren't invited to sing. And she would give and say, well, I'll come every night if you give them a space on the stage to sing, which helped edify their own careers and their ability to share their music. We have to understand that effective positioning is the key element for true success. And if we continue to operate in this cyclone of activity, which is all based on, just like getting hyped up and wilding out and like getting angry and expressing that anger, when in truth, that anger was already there. And now you're just feeling free to express it because now you've been given the green light to express it because of everything else is happening. So it's like, this is my chance to finally express these things. But is it effective to the idea of bringing more love? Is it effective to the idea of bringing more peace, more resolution, more connectedness, more togetherness? Is it effective in bringing understanding of resolution and harmonizing and bringing about pain into a place of solution so that we are able to utilize that visionary component to truly embark upon a new paradigm of thought consciousness that allows everyone to evolve without putting degrees of what is right for one person and what is wrong for another person. These are dualistic quantum entanglements that we need to pull ourselves out of.
We'll take a quick break so I can give a shout out to our sponsors. Are you that person that all your friends and family members come to when they need wellness advice? Are you constantly looking up new ways to heal and balance your mind, body, and spirit, including listening to this podcast? Well, have you ever considered having a career becoming a holistic health coach where you get to decide your own hours, work with people, tackling the subjects that you are the most passionate about, and having financial freedom along the way? Well, I'm so excited to be teaming up with my very own alma mater, Institute for Integrative Nutrition, to offer their biggest discount yet. You'll receive $2,250 off tuition, an extra bonus that they're offering just with my High Self podcast listeners on how to launch your dream book. This course is going to get you super clear on what your book is about and how to bring it out into the world. I've created a webinar for you on how to have a thriving business as a health coach. So using social media, creating passive income, how to have a wait list of clients and become the best known coach in your niche with raving testimonials. Tickets to a live upcoming IIN conference where I will be meeting you over there. Super excited to connect. And a bundle of all digital wellness guides like Ayurveda, self-love, whole food eating, etc. So all you have to do is head over to my show notes. You'll see the link over there. It's a little bit.ly link. It'll take you right there. You'll be able to receive a sample class, check out the curriculum, get all your questions answered. And I'm so excited to have you on this mission, raising the vibration of the planet together as a health coach. Again, head over to my show notes. You'll see the link right there, and I'll see you inside. A lot of us don't feel comfortable going to supermarkets right now, and cafes are closed, which means we aren't picking up green juices or even buying fresh produce as often. But right now, it is more important than ever before to keep our immune systems high, especially with greens and superfoods. I've been drinking Organifi Green every single day, and it's been a goddess send. It contains immune-boosting ingredients like moringa, chlorella, spirulina, wheatgrass, ashwagandha, turmeric, lemon, mint, and so much more. It takes only 1 minute to add into my water, and I feel so good knowing that at least I got my greens in for that day, which frankly I may not have had otherwise. I've also sent it to my family members to keep them healthy at this time too. You can receive 20% off your Organifi at Organifi.com using coupon code Sahara. Again, that's Organifi, ORGANIFI.com using coupon code Sahara, and that link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I completely agree. And I think that that is why finding your Dharma, your purpose, is so essential, because I think that suddenly when we just heard about these injustices, it's like we were all like, in an army and we all just like ran to the front, and not everyone is supposed to be on that front line. Like the army, the reason why it's powerful is you have the generals here and you have the people actually in the kitchen over there and even the entertainers, and like everyone has their role. And I think there was just such a frenzy at the beginning because everyone, we're seeing with the number of people who are protesting on the streets, the number of people who really do care about this cause. It's not that just that they don't want to look bad on social media. They genuinely do care. But I think because so many people don't know their gifts, they don't know their strengths, they don't know how they're supposed to serve on even just a everyday level, then when it comes to something as nuanced as this, then they totally give up. And then they just kind of see what other people are doing, repeat it. And then we have this like imbalance of power that's really happening on the back end. So yes to all of that. And I know that you have written about this blackout in your book, which came out like over a year ago. And it's something that you have been speaking about. So can you share with us from a shamanic perspective what this blackout is?
Yes. So, I'm not a person, I know you, and a lot of other colleague friends of mine, that you guys come out with book after book after book after book after book. And that's not me. I'm a shaman. The only reason why I come out with books is because Spirit says that you have to write the book. So Spirit came to me very clearly and said, you need to write the book. You need to let them know what's coming and that's coming to them. And the book was supposed to be called 2020, The Blackout. But my publisher was like, tell me again how you want this book to look. I said, I want it to be all black and I wanted to say blackout in white and then put 2020 in it. And they were like, no one's going to buy that book. And that just might be people might find it, racially offensive. They might see it like you're saying blackout, so he brought up all these really fine ideas of why we shouldn't call it Blackout 2020. So I said, well, I have to talk about the blackout. So it needs to be in the book. So I didn't know what I wanted to call the book. And then I was with Dave Asprey and he was like, I'm the biohacker and really you're the spirit hacker. So, it's not that difficult to figure out. And then I kind of put it out of my head. And then another friend to me said, hey, you're a spirit hacker, Durek. You teach people how to do quick spirit hacks by taking the shamanic knowledge that you have and making it much more accessible to mainstream and creating it in a more modern context that allows people to digest it. Instead of spending 10 years on one thing, you've actually digested it down to like 25 minutes to access a power that you didn't know you had. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's great. And then when we did the book, I said, well, I want to make the book about all the major issues that are going to be showing up in the blackout. So if you actually read the spirit hacking book, we talk about the blackout. The blackout is a pivotal time. It's a choice point for humanity that has happened many times before and as we have evolved on Earth, everything from the Berlin Wall to people that took place with Hitler to you name it, right? And blackouts have happened in different countries and different regions and different locations, but it hasn't been a global blackout. And so what I was talking about in the book was this global blackout. And what the blackout is it's 12 years of back-to-back experiences that are there to get humanity to course correct our consciousness, take responsibility for our collective shadow, not our individual shadow, our collective shadow, which is showing up in us individually, but being projected collectively, and being able to bring an understanding of that through the foundation of emotional intelligence, through the foundation of love and awareness, and through the foundation of the government isn't your friend, and really bringing out an understanding of true autonomy and true act of being a human activist. Doesn't mean you have to be an activist. Like people say, well, I'm not an activist. I'm like, yes, you are. You're an activist anytime you are feeling passionate about something that is out of balance and that is not in harmony. And so the blackout happens when society goes so far off track, so far off the rails of away from love and into things that are very depletous and vacuous, and that is not supportive to the human species, the animal species, the nature species, and the planet itself, but for being able to be nurtured and cared for and to operate in adaptation and evolution. So what happens is all of the energies in the spirit world begin to pass over into the physical experience, and it takes a high charge of magnetic energy, which requires certain eclipses, certain night becoming day, day becoming night. All of these different things would have to manifest before the blackout starts, because it's the magnetic energetic pools that would need to be able to deconstruct that energy frequencies and polarities that we've been holding on to and send them so completely out of whack that we actually get physical experiences like coronavirus and, racial tension between people, governments, showing you what's really coming, what they've been really up to. So everything that has been hidden comes into the light to be seen and to be loved and to be released, so that we can lift the veil of illusion and lighten our energetic frequencies on the planet, and then start moving our planet into a different dimensional pool, which allows us, instead of circling around the sun and us circling around it begins to move into another axis and enters into a new universe. And all of a sudden we start seeing planets disappearing and wondering why we can't see on our radars different planets, because we've actually accessed and transversed into another universe. But in order for that to happen, these energies and polarities that we've built and constructed for our idea of safety and security and control have to be challenged. And so the blackout is there to challenge these ideas, these concepts, these belief systems, these rules, these boxes, these check marks, these ideas of control. Because, let's face it, humans are control freaks. They take dominion over everything. They think they are the superior being because they can have a vocal box and achieve such things as being an astronaut, to a dancer, to a welder, to building an atomic bomb. They don't acknowledge the animal kingdom and having its own intelligence. They don't acknowledge the mineral kingdom of having its own intelligence, nature kingdom, the fungi kingdom. They don't acknowledge all the many different dimensions of life that exist on one planet. And therefore, we are infringing upon the natural ordinance of life in other aspects of dimensions that exist on planet Earth, because of our neglect and our irresponsibility and the way in which we conduct ourselves as human beings when we share the planet with other types of living organisms and other type of beings, that we take a superior controlling role. So we get thrown into a blackout. And this blackout is absolutely, unequivocally, the most powerful blackout that we have had in a very long time, since the time of the ancient times of Atlantis, at that time in Mesopotamia, when the great floods and the great tsunamis came and the people were drowning. If you read it in the book, it's the Noah's Ark story. This blackout is basically saying, look, peeps, here's the deal. Either start focusing on what's really important, which is family and love, which is your soul family, meaning your earth family, all the human beings, all the animals, all of nature, and start seeing that as important, or get caught up in the nonsense of the chaos. And the chaos will grow and grow and grow until the frequency will become so strong that the earth has to go to cataclysmic changes. Volcanoes need to start erupting again. Everything will upset the entire ecosystem, and earthquakes will take down cities that have never had an earthquake, like New York City. Wars, all of these things will become more present. People will socially fight each other. People will not continue to operate in their continent because it'll be inhabitable for them to grow food and to be able to sustain themselves. So they'll have human migration. All of these things are happening. And it's not, I find it very fascinating how human beings think like the corona thing is over. This is just the first stage. There are waves of the blackout that take place one after another. I told everyone, I said, watch when the coronavirus comes. Then comes the racial tensions that are going to get swept from underneath the rug. It's a part of the great upheaval. I talk about it in my book in Bigotry, Racism, Oh My. And I talk about all the things that are coming to light. You know, the women issues, we haven't even touched on that. That comes next year. All of these different things that are showing up is not there to punish us or to hurt us. It is there to refine us. Because we, as a society of global citizenry, we need refinement. We are not a refined species. And it's time for a big shake it up to wake it up refinement for us in whatever way necessary that needs to happen. And what we have to do as individuals is really take this time and ask ourselves, where can I show up and be more in service and more of a giver without always needing something? How many times do I have to keep asking angels and masters and beings for things? I'm always asking without giving. What do we give to the spirit world? What do we give to our ancestors? What do we give to each other? Everyone is just, I want a reading, I want a healing, I want to talk to the angels. Angels, when am I going to find love? When am I going to have money? When am I going to this? When am I going to that? Do you guys ever think that maybe it's time to stop asking for everything and start giving something? That's what it needs to shift out of the blackout.
So did this blackout begin in 2020 until 2032? Are those the dates of it?
No, the beginning of the blackout, the phase of the blackout needed magnetic charge. So when we started having remember that time when we were having all those solar eclipses? And it was like one after another, and there's people were going and taking glasses, and it was like dark to light, all those things. That's when the blackout began. The blackout began the planets and our planet and the system, our ecological system, had to get enough magnetic charge to actually throw off our polarities. So now that our polarities are thrown off, they're not going to go back until we actually refine ourselves. So the more and more we continue to react, the more and more sicker we're going to become, because the sickness has nothing to do with racism and all these things. These are symptoms. Like when you go to a doctor and you get a flu, the doctor's like, that's a symptom. There's a bigger sickness underneath. That's why I love functional medicine doctors, because they're not just looking at the symptom. They're looking at the cause of the symptom. How did it get started? What were the things that you did in your life that made this thing come into fruition? Well, that's the same thing we have to look at. We keep reacting to the symptoms of society, the symptoms of this, the symptoms of that. We're not looking at what caused it. And it wasn't racism that caused it. It wasn't sexism that caused it. It wasn't all of these social things that we are having charges on, that we're getting revved up about and getting all heated under the collar about. That's not where it came from. It came from a dysfunctional mental issue within humanity. We have a mental illness. And the only way we're going to fix this mental illness is to stop. Stop. That's what the whole corona was about. Stop. And just look at what you feel inside, that no matter what you're given, it's never enough. Where is that part of humanity, this vacuous hole of I need, or I can't, or else, or this or that? All of our suffering comes from this vacuous hole that we haven't chosen to dive into with consciousness of unconditional love and sort out. It's called rooted sickness. This is what caused slavery. This is what caused racism. This is what caused women to be pushed down and oppressed and pulled out of their positions as leaders in society, and bringing new visions to the people to be able to see both inner and outer dimensions quantumly. This is what blocked men from stepping into their feminine energy as a merging of feminine masculinity instead of just operating in toxic masculinity. This is what put women in a position of doting after their sisterhood and and being in competition with their sisters because they're afraid that their sister is going to steal their man or be more beautiful than them or more smarter than them. So they have to put them down and create these social cliques within women that make women feel like they are not being acknowledged and seen in their goddess form. Because what is the goddess? The goddess is one who is so clear in who they are. They're not offended or affected or a reaction to anything outside of them because they are operating in a certain mental energy of sustenance and sustainability. And that's what makes the goddess who she is. That's why she can lay back and be naked by the water. Like you see the image of the woman laying by the water, brushing her hair with a seashell, completely naked, because that's how safe and free she feels, because her power is that lit. Okay, we have been pushing our elderly women out of society. We have been dumbing down our children with everyone gets a prize and everyone a participation prize without giving them an opportunity to see what they're capable of and giving them the love and their encouragement and holding space for them to be loved unconditionally, so that when they do something, they do it from a place of joy and fun, not from a place of I have to prove something. So the idea of empowerment and encouragement comes from the understanding of growth and adaptation as a child into their rites of passage to become the adults who are conscious and aware and have emotional intelligence, who aren't affected by when someone says something to them, they get all their panties in a bunch. Okay, we have an illness, a mental illness that no one seems to be addressing. And I talk about it all the time, and no one wants to address it. Why do we as society watch these horrible movies where people stab each other and cut each other open and do these things? Do you not think we have spiritual post-traumatic stress disorder? Just because we don't think it's affecting us, it affects us. So why do we keep doing these things? Why are we burning down our forests that give us oxygen, destroying our own lungs to breathe? Why are we doing these things? Because it's never enough. We want more, more, more. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. I have a house. I have a car. I have the person. Maybe I be with that person. Maybe that'll bring me happiness. Maybe if I buy this, it'll make me happy. Maybe if I take a trip over here, it'll make me happy. What is wrong with humans not being happy with what we've been given? Fresh water, clean air, nature, the ability to eat and grow food from the earth, the ability to be close to each other, to hug each other, to nurture each other, to say beautiful words to the mind of another person so they can see the greatness, to hold space for each other, to make room for each other, to make it so that we don't have to starve, that no one should starve on planet Earth. No one should go without on planet Earth. This should not be this. And I'm not saying trying to create a socialism system. I'm saying create a system that acknowledges the value and worth that everyone has to bring to the species, not as an arcing place of it's never good enough, it's never enough, and until you buy this bag and have these shoes and do this and have this and have this and have that, until you have this many likes and this and you get this many hearts and you get this, then finally you should start loving yourself. No, love yourself now and knock off the nonsense.
Woo! Yes, that was incredible. Thank you for just dropping that on us. And you are absolutely right. And I think we are now real. Do you know what was happening at the beginning when someone would talk about anything else? You know, right now we're focusing on Black Lives Matter, but now as we've been in this for about a month, we're seeing that the same racist oppressors are the same homophobic ones, are the same patriarchal ones, are the same ones abusing our planet, are the same ones doing all of these things. So instead of us fighting against each other to divide and conquer, which is what they've done in the Middle East, Africa, pretty much everywhere in the world, let's all come together against this power. I think the fear that's coming into people, and I've experienced this myself, is let's say we have a revolution. What happens next? You know, my parents fled from a revolution that started by the people and was hijacked by this Islamic regime. So I think a lot of people, they know that the system is fucked up, but they don't know who to support instead. There's no, a unified force. So they're afraid of the chaos that may arise out of not even having this government. So I know you have some predictions on this. I'd love to hear your input.
You know, I believe very strongly in creating what are called social pods. Social pods are intellectual pods based upon how do we continue to adapt as a species and support our species with whatever resources we have as a collective, individually and collectively. So whoever you are and wherever you are, you start gathering people together and talking about ways you can support in whatever way possible. And if everyone starts creating these social pods to create this, we eventually start taking the power away from the things that we're told to put our energies into and invest into. We start investing in community. We start investing in the awareness of community. Therefore, eventually we can start creating a greater council, and a council that represents the people for the people, not representing these political power games that the political system is playing. Because at the end of the day, when I look at all the politicians that are being presented, they all are corrupt. Regardless of how you want to look at it or not, they're all corrupt. So it doesn't matter if you're on the red side or you're on the blue side, you're still operating in oppression. You're still supporting someone who's going to oppress something. So the key element is we have to start learning how to start sharing education and information and pull ourselves away from this need for accolades and aggrandizement and acknowledgement from the things that we can manifest and create. But let's start manifesting and creating a social collective that is building the future of what we call the elders, right? And the elders existing in women, men, some are doctors, some might be just a person, a postman. Everyone is a part of this. And so creating the new intellect for humanity requires us to, one, stop gossiping, two, stop going into all of these what is it called? Conspiracy theories and sharing information when you have really no facts to back up anything you're saying other than speculation and assumption, and start focusing on what is real for you, what does show up real, what is presently real in front of you, and then utilize that as the context of your conversations and how you can get other people to utilize their context of conversation based on what's real for them. And then let's have social gatherings where we are communicating how do we bring our collective vision together. This is like people like Martin Luther King did. This is the things that you see people who are a lot of leaders in the old times did. The only difference was they built leadership as one person and everyone else following. And what I'm talking about is building leaders among leaders so that there is no one person they can take out because everyone is speaking on the same thing. And what is that thing? Love. What is that thing? People. What is that thing? Resource. What is that thing? Support. What is that thing? Emotional intelligence. What is that thing? Coping mechanisms. Because right now, the system loves that there's been no emotional intelligence taught in the school system and the educational system. They know that human beings do not have coping mechanisms. And if we don't start creating forms of coping mechanisms to help people who are wilding out and falling apart because they don't know how to cope with the emotional intensities that everything is showing up for them empathically, then we are going to set ourselves back even further in what we call the love revolution. A revolution can be great, but it's only great if it's supporting a greater vision for all humanity and the planet. I've seen revolutions throughout time that people have put so much energy into freeing one person and enslaving another. That's not a true revolution. That is a revolution to get your needs met. We need to start creating a collective revolution, one where everyone's needs are met, and we take down anything that is oppressing us as human beings from shining and being the radiant light that we were born to be, not this vacuous pit of need and I need and I need and I need, but a place of what we call graceful living, a place where we are in true service. And we're not doing what we're doing because we expect something in return. We're doing it because that is who we are.
Yes, aho to that. What do you think of right now? A lot of people are leaving cities. They want to move off grid, grow their own food, because there is a lot of, fear right now on how livelihood will be in cities. What is your take on this?
I think it's each person. I'm not going off grid to go do that because I'm needed in the cities. I need to be in the midst of the hurricane or the tornado. I am the eye of the storm, right? So I'm always in a very calm, cool, collected place, sharing love, information, and the spiritual technology to be able to give people the space to recognize their power so that they can be in power and not be affected by all of the chaos and the unveiling of these dualistic energies coming undone based on what we're in right now, which is this great upheaval in the blackout. So some people may feel that they're better suited to be in nature and in countrysides and growing their own food. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. As long as you're not doing it because you think you're running away from what's taking place, because you can't run, baby. This is a global blackout, not a one area blackout. This is a global blackout. So wherever you are in the world, even the tribes in the world are being affected by everything that is happening right now, and will continue to for the next 12 years until we course correct and refine ourselves as human beings to come out of this vacuous hole of lack and limitation and scarcity and into a place of true prosperity, true abundance, and true acknowledgement of each other from a beautiful and loving place, as Nostradamus talked of the golden age, right? And so we have that ability. We have the resource to do it. We have the knowledge to do it. We have the intelligence and the knowledge. And we have the wisdom that is being downloaded to so many people. We have so many beings in the outer of the planet who are sending codes, like all the codes for you to increase your powers: 1111, 333, 444, 222, 2433, 32. These, when you see these codes, say, thank you, I see it, download this into my system at 10,000, or download this into my system at 20,000. These codes are basically enhancing your spiritual technology so that so it can lead you somewhere. All of a sudden you feel like, okay, I've been downloading 1111 in my body. All of a sudden I have this feeling that I need to move to this country. You go, because those codes were actually getting you to get to that point. So we have to start looking at all the things that are coming in to support us at this time. So if the person feels they need to be in nature, fine. Be in nature if that's where you feel you're best suited to be of service. But don't go to nature just because you think you're running from your brothers and sisters, because this is a whole global affair, my darlings. And you can run and you can hide, but you're not really hiding from anybody but yourself and the power that you've been given to stand in your power and radiate your light at this given time.
Yes, yes. I know a lot of people right now are running from a place of fear. They're running because they've heard, different theories of different things that are going to happen. And I've also seen a lot of, I have always dabbled in conspiracy theories because a lot of them are true and then a lot of them are not. And I'm seeing this especially when the coronavirus picked up. A lot of people were in this place of total uncertainty, that these theories became really relieving to them because it helped them make sense of the world. What I'm seeing is these theories have this one person solution, right? And they're taking things that may actually be happening, but then there's one guy who's the savior and, all of these things. And it's so obvious what the agenda is behind them. But what I am seeing are a lot of the spiritual people, the people who are on a spiritual journey, their awakenings be kind of hijacked by this movement. And instead of spending their time on, their dharmas and spreading love and spreading joy and being the vision forward, they're in this complete fear. So can you speak into this? Because I'm sure you've seen it happening too.
Yes, there is, well, first of all, what I find very fascinating is people who actually believe that coronavirus isn't real and that we're all being put under some kind of like drill and some kind of test. Okay, well, I'm going to burst your bubble. I've worked with a lot of people who have been sick, and a lot of friends of mine, family members who've been sick from coronavirus who died. And I witnessed it firsthand, and it's real. And it's unfortunate because I have a lot of friends who are still mourning their uncles, their aunts, their cousins, and people who have passed away. And a lot of these people who passed away that I've witnessed didn't have pre-existing conditions. They just got a strong strand of the coronavirus that was the one that attacked their lungs at such a degree that they couldn't get enough oxygen in their system, and they went into cardiac arrest, and also they went into fixation where they couldn't breathe, and there's nothing that anyone could do. And I've also been working with a lot of nurses who've been on the ground floor in New York City and in different places of the world, who have come to me for assistance and help to keep, put their mental self in the right place and so that they can continue moving forward and doing what they're doing. So, I mean, we can't, we can say these things if we want to, if it makes us sleep better at night and it's better for you to be out of sight, out of mind. But again, that never changed. That never created a change in the world, is to be out of sight, out of mind. As Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, the people who are out of sight, out of mind are the worst, more so than a racist themselves. Because a person who's out of sight, out of mind, who sees things going on but acts like it's not going on and does absolutely nothing to actually help any aspect of it, those are the people who are the worst, because they're just watching and acting as if it's not there because it's too much for them to bear, when your whole life, everything you've gone through has been preparing you for this moment. And so if you think of all the pain and the suffering and the hurt and the heartbreak and all the things, that has been your chariot that will carry you through this time, because those are the lessons you learned. That's why you took those things on and drew those people into your life. But what we have to realize is that human beings love to tell stories so they can find the big bad wolf, So they can hunt the big bad wolf or hunt the witch and set her on fire or whatever it is. So right now, that's what humans are looking for. They're looking for, who's the bad wolf that made all this happen? Well, guess what? Turn your finger towards yourself, because you found it. And it's not about you being the big bad wolf. It's just about you realizing that we are a collective of human beings on earth. Everything that is happening, we all set into motion on some level or another, and we all have come to clean up this mess. And this is not, let me find who's doing this and doing that and point the finger, but it's like, okay, I see what they're doing. Now, what can I do in my community, in my family, with my friends, and my influence and my ability to create social change? What can I do with my resources? Because I am the resource, not these things. I'm the resource. What can I do to actually create a different narrative for people to put their mind upon, right? Because all it takes is 60% of people in the world over the other percentage, right, which would be 40, to have a stronger narrative of possibility, then everything would shift energetically and the world structure would shift and change, because 60% is utilizing the energetic field of intelligence for true transfiguration and transmutation. But in order for us to move in that place, when we're going into all these conspiracy theories and we're going into all of these different things, we're hijacking ourselves. We're literally going like, okay, I'm gonna go, okay, there's this thing, okay, there's this, okay, Pizzagate, okay, there's this thing, okay, Trump, okay, this, okay, that, da, 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 da. This is such a distraction, because if you were meant to inject any of those aspects of what you are conspiracy theorying about, then Spirit would put you right smack dab in the middle of that craziness. Spirit is not putting you smack dab in the middle of that craziness. You are just searching for those things, instead of you saying, Spirit, how can I best be utilized at this time based on the resource that I represent on this planet? And then Spirit will put you right there where you need to be to hold that light for wherever Spirit wants you to be. But when I see all these conspiracy people going and whatever, I'm like, okay, great. You told me all these things. Now, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're just going to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, which you're devaluing your own resource. You have all this other resource that Spirit's asking you to utilize, where there's really going to be impact, but you rather talk and 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 spread more and more and more and more and more. But are you really educating people, or are you creating people to be more caught up in the quagmire of the spinning wheels, instead of saying, hey, people, here's the deal. We know this thing exists. We understand it. Okay. Let's not focus on too much of that, because we're giving it power every time we put our mind on it. Let's focus our mind on what we do want. Let's focus our mind on being true manifestors. Let's focus our mind on being true visionaries. We see this exists. Okay. How do you change dirty water? Well, you don't talk about the dirty water, because you make it more dirty. You say, oh, the water is dirty. You see it? Okay. I see the water is getting clean right now. I see the air getting clean right now. I see people waking up tomorrow and changing their mind about this divisive thoughts they've had and start looking for collective togetherness. I see these things. I speak them into existence. You are a walking, living God. How you dream Your dream, if you can dream greater than everyone else's dream, then your dream starts leading the people's dreams into a higher place. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. The reason why he said that was not just because he had a dream. He's sharing with you a code that's going to help us in the future and help us right now. I have a dream. Yes, he had a dream, but his dream was not his dream. His dream was our dream. All he did was stand behind it and waited for more people to get behind it. But if we keep getting caught up in all of the craziness and all of the things that are going on, and this thing, and this person's doing this, and oh my God, and these things are happening, and there are people who are agents of the light who've been put into certain positions to act at a certain time and to be able to take down these systems. And they need you to amplify the love on the planet so that the beings who are in the outer planets, our brothers and sisters Palladians and Arcturians and Andromeda beings, where I'm from, they can infiltrate the minds of the people who are being enslaved by these ETs in the darkness, which is those ETs that are keeping the underworld going and keeping people's minds stuck in this dark way of controlling and subjugating and oppressing their own species, to waking them up and getting into their synapses and changing and opening up different neural pathways by using different codes and technologies that their species has the ability to do, that we have not gotten that technology yet, but they need us to drop the veil. It's kind of like Star Wars. You remember, everyone has their role. Jedis have their role. They're here to be peacekeepers. If the peace gets out of alignment with the dark side, they have to battle it out with the dark side to keep the peace. Then you have the ones who take down the shields. They go in and infiltrate. They take down the shields so that the other troopers can come in and start infiltrating. Everyone has to be where they're supposed to be. So if you feel that your conspiracy theory, all of that stuff is actually the best suitable place for you to utilize your support for the force to be able to infiltrate the darkness and bring it into the light, then great. But if you are just doing it because you're confused and you want to get other people confused and you want to hype other people up, but you're not doing anything really with that. You're not taking down the force field so we can get in there, so the Jedis can get in and do their thing, so that the ships can come in because the force field's around this planet, so that those ships can come in, and that the people who are on the ground level can get into the infiltrations of different positions in government and so forth, and wait for the call from spirit to take action and free these children and take action and help this situation, take action and take down these social groups that are using sacrificing and adrenochrome and all these different things that they're doing, that these ETs are telling them to do so they can continue to create this illusionment of, I never have to die, I'm going to stay young forever, which is everyone's big issue on the planet. And so again, are you suitably utilizing your intelligence in a way that is truly supporting what you are capable of doing for the force? Because that's where we're at. This is the real Star Wars, people.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that is the most essential thing, because right now I'm seeing so many people just using these theories as another way to be woker than someone else, to fight against someone else, to be like, oh, you don't know the real truth, I'm the truth teller, and like label themselves as this person, and just creating more divisiveness and adding on to the fear. And I really believe that it's all a distraction, because if we are all, again, using now this theory against each other, then we're actually, if there is this dark force out there, which we can all agree with, wouldn't they want this to happen? So I think it is important for us to unify and come together. And I love that analogy you made of Star Wars, of just like the different people coming in at different times. And I think that that's why dropping the judgment is so important too, because that person next to you, they may not have even made their move yet. They may be like the queen in chess, and they're making their move like way later on in the game. But we're saying, why aren't you moving faster? But you might just be like a pawn right here, just like in human design, like they're generators and projectors and manifestors. And this is why it's so important to know thyself, because the more you know thyself, then you can take aligned action forward instead of just like this messy hodgepodge, which is what is happening right now.
Yep.
And I do, on top of that, think that we needed to see what doesn't work, so we can be like, okay, we have a lot more issues that in the next 12 years or so we're going to tackle. And we learned early on in 2020 what doesn't work. So now we're going to keep on refining and refining and refining.
Mm-hmm.
So Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us. It really just helps us come back to our truth and to trust our guts again. And I think that's what people have really been, doubting. They've been doubting their own intuition right now because every time they've making a move, they've been told that they're wrong. So thank you for reaffirming that we know in our soul, and just for being you and for always being the first person to come and support humanity. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I love our Awaken Your Powers masterclass that is still, helping so many people today. So where can listeners connect with you, learn from you even more?
So, for my positioning right now on the planet and where I'm best utilized for my resource is, look, I come from the ancient times. I come from the times of old magic and the time when the earth was Pangea, when I was an oracle in Delphi as Pythia. So my role on the planet right now is to supercharge human beings into understanding their powers, to see magic brought back on earth. It is said by the shamans that there are a certain amount of energetic spheres of intelligence, of magic that is being held in the planet and locked down by these subversive systems that have been wanting to oppress it through religion and through getting, sacrificing people and doing all of these things to oppress it. And it's people who come from the old world of magic to erect those pillars and erect those energies back on the planet so that magic returns to the people. Because once magic returns to the people, it's game over for the Matrix. Right. And so my focus right now is to level you up. It's to level you up, but not in the way of like teaching you how to bang a drum and burn sage and this kind of stuff. I'm talking about everyone should have access to their spirit guides. Everyone should have access to their ancestors. Everyone should be able to speak to animals. Everyone should be able to speak to nature and spirits and trees and flowers and plants and herbs and know how to communicate to these things. Everyone should be able to access electricity, fire, water, magnetic energy. They should be able to access ice energy. They should be able to access the elemental frequencies. Everyone should be able to access their intelligence, to be able to speak to their future self, to be able to speak to their quantum selves, to be able to speak to their multidimensional expression, and to what people call their higher self, to speak to themselves as the living presence of creation. They should have access to be able to move energy, to make things happen, to shift energy frequencies in other people. They should have all of these powers and so much more. And so that's where I come in. So my role right now is to give you those powers. So one of the things that I've created is called the Healing Temple. It's every Friday. It's $10. You come in and you get a shamanic healing. It's life-changing. I set it up so people can get the poison out and get in their powers. Also you can check it out on, you can come to Ancient Wisdom Today podcast, come to the Instagram. I'm putting up all kinds of posts to help you level yourself up, videos, so, really, essentially, my role, I have a new thing I'm doing right now. I just created a whole new, it's called One Tribe. I just created it with my friend Amir Magal and this amazing company that we've gotten together, and we forwarded an idea of a one tribe consciousness. So we are launching that in the next 4 or 5 days with Akon, with Mike Tyson, Holly Berry, all these amazing people, and really creating the narrative of one tribe consciousness. We're not going to accept division. We are not accepting division. We are not accepting being scattered so that we can be weak. We're one tribe consciousness. And that's the new thing. And you can check that out. That's on my Instagram. You can get involved in the one tribe consciousness and really start anchoring yourself in the awareness of your autonomy, no more codependency, and truly recognizing yourself. So you can go to shamandurek.com, you level up at my shaman school, and, get lit.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. What incredible resources you've provided. And thank you for being this incredible light. You are the genie incarnated into human form. I love speaking with you. I love your humor and I love your heart. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
No, I love you. I have something coming for you. We have a thing called Shamanic Dance Electric. And I can't wait because I'm going to send it to you because I want you to hear it and listen and embody it. And then I know once you do, because I know how you like to get it boogie down, because we got down at Jordan's wedding, and and Sahara is no joke. This girl can dance, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like if she wasn't this powerful, powerhouse, doing all the things that she's doing to up level everybody and educate them on Ayurveda and all these other things. This girl, like, she's literally the old school fly girl. So I just want to honor you and your freedom, and you and Saad, you guys, you both make me just so happy to see you move and shake, and just get up and shake that shimmy. And I just want to honor you because I love you, Goddess. Thank you for honoring your goddess. Like, thank you for honoring the queendom in you. Thank you for honoring the people by showing up for yourself. I'm just honored. Thank you for giving me this space to share my love. And I'm grateful, truly grateful.
Thank you so much. Are you feeling lit and activated from that conversation with Shaman Durek? I love the wisdom that he provides. He is such a powerhouse, so inspiring, so intelligent, and just such a teddy bear in human form at the same time. So be sure to check out his work, his book, Spirit Hacking. I highly recommend it. It is such a great book for any time, but especially right now to dive deeper into all of this from a shamanic perspective. Be sure also to check out our Awaken Your Powers Masterclass. It is all about being a leader in the new paradigm, overcoming fears, imposter syndrome, everything that shows up that prevents us from stepping into our full sovereignty, our full activation, our full leadership, which is what is truly needed. Whether you want to be a leader to a large number of people, to your family, to your friends, social media, yoga studio, whatever it is, we need leaders right now, conscious leaders that are connected to their hearts, connected to their truths, and also not afraid of people's opinions and what other people are going to say, because the truth is, the criticism is real. The divide and conquer is real right now. So we need to overcome this fear of, not everyone liking us and step forward to create this new world. And we really empower you how in our Awaken Your Powers Masterclass. So that full thing is available for you in Rose Gold Goddesses. You can join at rosegoldgoddesses.com. The link is in the show notes. It also includes all 10 of the different goddess circles that I have, Discover Your Dharma, 10-day audio course, Rose Gold Goddesses framework, all of the things, healing and embodiment through dance workshop. Everything is available for you all in like one umbrella with our very own app. 2,000 plus spiritual soul sisters to connect with, all there for you in Rose Gold Goddesses. So come check it out. It is rosegoldgoddesses.com, and I am so grateful to have you here. If you loved this episode, I would love to send you a free gift, which is the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. This is a different book than Eat Feel Fresh, my first book ever, which is not released anywhere, and I am gifting it exclusively to those who leave a review of my podcast in the iTunes store. So all you got to do is head over to iTunes, where you may be listening to this podcast, and leave a review. Take a screenshot that you've left it and email it over to me at Sahara@eatfeelfresh.com. Again, that's Sahara, Sahara, at eatfeelfresh.com. And I will send you back the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type, which goes all into Ayurveda, doshas, plant-based nutrition, body types, all of the things in a really fun and engaging way. So this is my gift to you for free for supporting the podcast. Every single review I personally read. It really helps the podcast be listened to by more people so we can raise the vibration of the planet together. And I am so grateful to have you on this journey. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Namaste.